Hi there, welcome to Alpha Book Club. This is going to be a somber hour, but let's bring it in for a hug already. Is it a book club or is it a hug session? That's what we don't know yet, but we're doing both. What up? This is a book club for people that love all sorts of books, especially ones that get made into a show that you can watch as well. My name's Maud Garrett. Joining me as always, we've got Nerdist's editor-in-chief, Rachel Hine.
Charles.
Clink. And we've also got the host of Animation Investigation, Hector Navarro.
Boom.
This is a little bit of a different investigation though, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. That was very funny, Maud. That's great.
Oh, there was a hot mic, so people heard you compliment me about my hair.
Oh,
Amazing.
It does look good.
It's amazing.
Is it? Did you get?
No, I should have washed it, but I
No, it
just
looks
put
good.
a lot of product in.
Los Angeles Rain is doing it for you, girl.
Thank you, +1.
Thanks.
All right. It is December.
No, we're doing a different show. It's a different thing.
point.
And the reason I said for real this time was because I complimented Maud last night on the show that we were filming, the show that we do, your show.
Fungeons and Flagons.
And we allow ourselves to compliment Maud at the top of the show to try to get a +1 to our dice rolls.
and
so
there's a lot of strategy when it comes to trying to butter me up.
Yeah, Maud has figured out that when I say nice hair, that I'm full of shit. But genuinely tonight.
But then
really
he goes,
nice
no,
hair.
your hair actually looks terrible. So I go, well, -2 then.
Is it like when we have the house cup and you're like really trying to win so that you lose points?
It is like that.
Is that what you're doing?
Exactly.
Whew.
Sorry.
And I like the power of my position for that
Yeah,
one.
that's way better.
Hey, welcome to our Alpha community. You guys you're happening already. We've got Immortal Amazon, Dr. Shy, Reading Dodo Kiwi, Vance 1982, Lost the Numbers, what up? Ravenwolf, Thrash Odin, who I already want to have a discussion about one of your questions in there. This is all great. We've got a great community. And we're starting a new book with you guys. Now, the first part of this month, we're going to be reading Gillian Flynn's, Sharp Objects. It is a shorter book. So we figured that we would read half of this book now and cover the second half of it next week. Because it is so small, we've got a second book to tackle at the second half of this month. A lot of reading to do. We don't take holidays.
But it's
when there's
somehow less
pages.
reading than one Harry Potter book, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Both of these two books combine like a third of our last Harry Potter book.
And
last
they're
month.
also, I feel like the style is very different.
Oh yeah.
Of all of
They don't know
of
what our
all of
second-
them. I mean, obviously the subject matter is too, but
Yes.
I
this is like
had to
my
bring out
favorite kind of-
had to bring out my dictionary again for this one.
for which words?
I
Tell
wanted
me.
to try and
I just let
highlight
myself
them.
be
There's a couple
stupid.
of great ones. No, I love
use
it.
You gotta
context
look
clues.
Yeah, that works.
She used one twice. It started with an L. It wasn't
Loquacious?
loquacious. Was it loquacious?
I don't know.
Gracious.
I don't know. I wasn't in your brain.
Oh, but we said the same word.
Well, that's just the one I thought of from it, but I don't
this was her
remember.
debut novel.
No,
I think. Yeah, it is.
What?
Yeah, this is her first one.
Someone read the notes. Me.
Yeah, because she was still. Well, I'll let you.
Oh, there you go. Let's talk a little bit about this. Before we do begin, though, big time want to have a sensitive chat because this is a trigger warning. This book deals with some pretty heavy topics, including self-harm and death. And when I say death, I mean murdering of young girls.
And
So
and
that's a
assault,
lot.
several types
Yeah.
of assault as well. So.
There's like a really destructive family dynamic in here. I know that when I was reading it, it was just sitting really, really hard in the gut for me. So this is a very sensitive topic, and we usually do very lighthearted, fun, fantasy-esque type books. So this one we're going to have real discussions. But previously, when we've done some pretty hardcore real books like Gone Girl, again with Gillian Flynn, we've had some incredibly intelligent discussion, and the chat has always been outstanding with that. But if you do not feel comfortable having any of this conversation or feel like you need to get out, totally fine. Absolutely get it. But we just wanted to give you a little heads up in this one.
Yeah, Gone Girl. We still have fun with Gone Girl, but we still had like some pretty good. Like, real
I was
conversations
white
about-
knuckling my
Yeah.
steering wheel when I was listening to that one. I was listening to it in traffic and it was like, not great.
There's, and I think too, when we're reading sci-fi and fantasy, I mean, I do this, but definitely I'm guilty of this, of like pulling real life like comparisons out of those, but these are actually much more grounded in reality, although we could maybe debate that as we were talking about it.
A little.
Depending on your perspective, but I
So
also
much of it is so
think
real, though.
that I was thinking about this book today and thinking that there's no group that I would rather talk about these kind of things with, because we know that everyone has been so wonderful in the chat anytime we talk about mental health or anything that we've ever talked about, a serious
We're all real
topic.
people at the end of the day. You know?
Yeah. And so, but yeah, if you're having a hard time, don't feel like you have to be here, but if you would like to just listen or ask questions.
A lot of
we'll
the time,
chat
as well,
about
people
it.
that do share, let's not kind of balk at other people that are finding it quite cathartic to have a conversation about it. We are here to sort of listen and learn about each other. I mean, it's a great little community that we have here. So, yeah, no judgment. This is a judgment-free zone.
It feels like a safe
Completely.
space.
Yeah, I think it's
It
a
is.
great book so
It
far.
is.
I think it's very, very, very good writing, despite the
She's great.
really tough
This is her
subject matter.
first
Yeah.
book. It's
And-
crazy.
Yeah.
I'm
And
waiting for her to write it because I've read all 3 of hers.
This,
Gone
what
Girl
else?
in Dark Places.
I haven't read Dark
Places.
Places
Which is
yet.
another, it's without getting too much into it, it's about a girl whose family was famously murdered when she was a child. Her brother went to jail for it, and then this group of people who are like obsessed with the
Right,
story,
the
kind of
story.
like recruit her to dive back into it.
Oh, good Lord.
And she's another, kind of
Interesting.
damaged, self-destructive, complicated
Yeah.
female character, which I love. That they're not like, none of these characters are all that likable.
Did she study psychology? What?
So she worked at Entertainment Weekly
So yes.
for years.
Yeah.
And I don't know what she studied in college. I would imagine English or journalism.
Because there's part of this that does feel like it's not so much a therapy session, but an emotional release.
Yeah.
We will get into this though. It was written only in 2006. This is only written 12 years ago. It was her first novel. She's written other ones that, we've covered Gone Girl on this show. If you do want to catch up on that one and you've signed on and you're watching this, you can go back, and that's a really, really great novel. It's a really great movie as well.
It's one of my favorite book to movie adaptations. And the
really
show
well
of
done.
this. Did you watch it?
Not yet. This is a
know,
rare
I'm
case
holding-
of Hector
I've actually
reading the
nearly
thing
finished the book.
before watching the thing.
So you're in it, even though it's hard to read.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I'll put it down and kind of just be like, and then it stares at me and I'm like, fine. Back.
I like
know-
that.
you know what
yeah,
I
the
might
show
do,
did a
though?
really great job, but it yeah.
I
just
might
need to
do
breathe
what
every
we
now
did on Murder on the Orient Express, where I read almost up until the end, and then we went and saw the movie. And then so during the movie, like when the twist happened at the end, I turned them on and I was like, no! And she'd already read it and stuff. So I might do that
Well,
with the show.
I did what I did with this book
Yeah.
with Murder on the Orient Express. I wanted to know how many chapters there were in the book, so I was
Oh, you
flicking to
spoiled
the
it.
end,
Do
and
you
then I was
know
like,
the-
zoom.
Do you know the?
Yeah,
What do you know?
So and so name got arrested,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
Okay.
oh, it turns out there's that
much-
many chapters.
There's
Good.
so much more. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I read that a little bit too. It was
Yeah.
on 2 pages before that, I believe. It was like some big bombs going off on my page, and I was like, ha ha, dear.
People are talking about previous. There was a movie made of Dark Places. It was not very good,
in that?
unfortunately.
When did that
Charlize
come out?
Theron. It came out in
That's right.
France and then
What?
VOD here, and I was
Oh,
super
sucks.
excited.
That sucks.
It just was miscast. It was I didn't really get it, but people are also sharing in the chat that they have had either experiences of their own with self-harm or known someone else, and you guys are not alone. I have also experienced that. So this book, when I read it for the first time, was it's really difficult to read. But it also, I think it can help feel like other people understand something that you've gone through. So just know that you guys are not alone, and feel free to talk about whatever you'd like to, and just be mindful of everyone else as well, and sign off if you need to.
We're also asking you guys if you've read Sharp Objects before. Only 11% have read it before. 72% have never read it.
That's me.
11% started it but couldn't finish it, and that's what Lee was saying happened with him in Dark Places. Tried to read it, just couldn't quite get there.
Oh.
6%. It's my favorite book.
It's one of my favorite books. I would agree with this. The depictions of self-harm in the show was very triggering, and had to decide whether or not I could continue. I think, again, for me, it's always the visual is more intense for me than reading
Yes.
it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's still difficult for me to see that. Even though I'm fine with gore and horror movies and stuff, that's one that really gets to me.
Because we're desensitized to the gore and horror movies and
Yeah.
stuff. We know
Yeah.
exactly. We know that it's fantasy and that
Well, I
sort
also
of
feel like the
violence.
sound design behind a lot of
Totally.
it, like it's
Yeah.
really kind of like
Yeah.
gregarious and exaggerated.
Absolutely.
Instead of like intimate and secret.
Yeah.
Gratuitous,
There's
not
also, like-
gregarious. And you guys both nodded
That's
with me.
fine.
Totally
Because
different
it's
word.
basically
I
the
thought
same
you
thing.
said-
I meant gratuitous.
Yeah.
Totally said gregarious.
I mean, when you said gregarious, I was like,
comedy.
yeah, Kill Bill. That is gregarious blood. It's very.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, gratuitous.
I'm the Hector tonight. I'm drinking my wine real
You
fast.
drink it real fast.
Real
Go
fast.
for it.
I was going to say something.
Oh, just about Gillian and her like experience. Yeah, she was a it's so funny because she was a writer at Entertainment Weekly, and then wrote this, and it became a big deal. And then she wrote Gone Girl, which was a huge deal.
I wonder if.
But she's like kind of a hero for like. I think a lot of entertainment writers want to be TV or film writers more than book. And so when I read that, I was like, especially this came out in 2006. I don't think I read it until. I don't remember when I read it. Definitely after 2006, but still when I was like, I'm gonna write a book and not do. And so she was like kind of a cool example of like, you can do it. People still write books sometimes.
She's a really great writer.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
She's so.
I want to go back
how she writes.
and find some old articles of Entertainment Weeklies that she wrote, and I wonder if
You
they'll
can.
read like. In tiny Los Angeles, California, posters pleading for the return of Ben Affleck's career were still hanging as they buried his terrible movie on Tuesday. And people were like, Gillian, can you rewrite that, but make it more fluffy, please? It's a fluffy thing. And I wonder if her
maybe
stuff
that's
was
why. It's
intense.
like a pent up. I remember when I worked on Nickelodeon for 3.5 years, they were like, how do you feel now that you no longer work there? And I went, honestly, like, I want to swear my face off and I want to kick a puppy. And they're like, what? And I was just like,
Don't do that though.
I never, obviously.
I know.
But it's that extreme, you have just two extremes
That's
where
so
I was
funny.
like, hey everyone, for so long. I was just like,
Yeah, totally. And I think Entertainment Weekly is also very positive, like pop, like, you know, definitely I think when it was more of a print magazine, you could still have a little bit more critical stuff, but it's not.
Yes.
It's not a super critical.
Here's the summer preview.
Yeah, it's
all
not,
the movies coming
it's,
out.
They get all the stuff
Yes.
first. You
Yeah.
know,
It-
they
it-
work with the studios, which I get, and like there's no judgment
No,
there. But
and
it's
it's very
a different
good.
kind of work. Yeah.
Totally, and I honestly really like Entertainment Weekly. Whenever they do come out with a special issue of
That
their
used
magazine,
to be my like
I get it.
dream
That was your
job
go-to.
was
yeah,
like editor-in-chief of Entertainment
But it's so
Weekly,
interesting
the
that
print.
that is it Gillian or Jillian?
Gillian.
Gillian worked there, and it was so in the media and in the like the worship of celebrity
Yeah.
that both of that is those themes are prevalent in Gone Girl and in this. How she writes
But they're intimate.
the media, but they're into it's always
media.
small town media, but still it's like it's that thing
Very
of
integral
crimes
part,
being
yeah.
sensationalized and how that affects the people in it.
But
And it's
also, she
fascinating.
exploits media, claiming to them to be quite manipulative.
Absolutely.
And, you know, that
I mean,
they're
she was in
often-
it.
And that is often true.
Yeah,
That is
totally.
often true. Like I'm always when I speak to someone who either if it's an interview, I don't do that many junkets anymore, but or someone that I know that's in that field or whatever, I'll say like they'll, you know, we all have that thing where we're like, oh, friend DA, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
off
like,
the
no, I'm
record.
not here trying to like catch you or write about your person. You know, like
Yeah.
I'm very grateful that I don't work at a place where it's like,
Yeah.
we're gonna get you. You know, like that's
I know.
never the
I know
thing
in
that we
junkets,
want
I
to
see
do.
people, celebrities kind of clench up and close up. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not here to get a scoop on you
No,
and wreck your life.
off the record.
don't care.
Whatever. I'll sign away my
Yeah.
my.
I know so
firstborn who
many
won't be born.
secrets about
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
A-list celebrities.
Yeah, and movies
And I'm
and
like,
things
it's
that.
just A, it's
yeah.
not my secret to delve. B, I don't particularly
And
care.
I am also really thankful that the few people I know that know stuff about stuff that I care about, like that they'll offer like, hey, do you want to know about this thing from this movie coming out? And I'm like, yes. And it's like friend DA. Like
Yeah.
I'll never, you know, yeah,
Yeah.
off the record,
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
me what's happening, what,
Yeah, and
who's the
you'll
villain and
never-
what? And I'm
yeah.
like, well, it's great.
Just to know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just to
just
know. I want to
Um,
know so bad.
I'll also say in the chat another thing that people are struggling with, and this also for me is Adora, the mother-daughter.
Yeah.
All the mother-daughter relationships of between Marion and Adora and Camille, Adora and Amma. Whew.
That's just
Amma
9 types
is
of fucked up.
a lot, and we'll definitely
I
talk
wanna
about
smack her.
But people are, you know, I think
Somebody in the chat asked earlier, who's meaner, her or
Regina.
from Mean Girls?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Amma. It's like Regina, like is a kind of a like you can
Well,
see, she grows up, she learns.
she does. She
and
just
grows.
But
does
you
field
also,
hockey.
you know what Regina's mum's like.
That's
Yeah,
true. She's
but
not a regular
also
mom. She's
Adora-
like
She's a cool
cool
mom.
mom.
I actually used that reference today.
I used it
Great.
on
yesterday.
myself.
I
My
use
friend's about to be a dad for the first time. I'm like, you're not going to be any kind of dad. You're going to be a
You're
cool
gonna
dad.
be a
And he's
cool
like,
dad, right?
thanks. I'm
Yeah.
like,
I think we all quote Mean Girls at
It's
least
great.
once a day.
Yeah.
Without even meaning to.
what was it? This happened yesterday.
Good for you, Glenn Coco. You go, Glenn
you
Coco.
go.
Or for you. She doesn't even go to school.
Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't even go here. Yeah, that's
Oh, that's
great.
right. I misquote everything.
Yeah.
Everything. I once said that dairy was a poor decision or something. Milk was a bad choice.
Dairy was a poor decision.
Oh my god.
Dairy
I
was a
love
poor
that.
decision. That's
The
so
worst
Australian.
one I've ever had though.
That was a bad
I had a friend go,
choice.
"Oh, Jurassic Park, yeah, smart bitch," and I was like, "She's doing it wrong."
But that's hilarious.
So one person in the world is worse than me.
We should redub all of the classic lines and get actors to redub them and be like, "Smart bitch," and then the raptor attacks, so people get confused.
This is an odd question. If you don't want to answer it, I totally understand. Maybe you have your reasons behind it. But who's your favorite character? We're asking you guys. Is it Camille, Adora, Alan, Bob, Amma, or other? Wow, Alan just shot up to 100. Oh, we are
Alan.
Oh,
looking
it's
at
because
this
one
is
person
a live
voted.
feed.
Yeah,
happening
one person
right
voted.
now.
100%.
I like Camille. I definitely can identify with Camille very
Yes.
strongly, and people in the chat are also talking about if you grew up with or yourself have struggled with or dated or anything, both narcissists
Yeah.
and anyone who is dealing with borderline personality disorder or
That's-
bipolar disorder. There are a lot of things in this book that you can kind of pick up on if you're
Absolutely.
familiar with
Who's got BDP in the book?
those.
Camille.
I would say that I would say
Adora?
all of them.
Yeah.
In different ways. I would say that Adora is definitely a narcissist borderline. That would be my guess. Emma, I don't know yet. And then Camille, I
She's
think
got
borderline.
psychopath,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels like that.
which is a healthy dose of narcissism and
With,
lack
yeah.
of empathy. and-
Yeah.
yeah.
But a lot of children who grow up with borderline parents end up having some of those symptoms themselves
Yeah.
because they struggle with boundaries and interpersonal relationships. And you can kind of see that in this where Camille knows that her mom she doesn't feel like her mom loves her. She knows that a lot of her motherly affection was performative at best.
Yes.
But she still
seen in the
craves it, and
hospital.
so does Amma. It's this pattern, and someone in the chat was saying that that it seems like it should be. Oh, sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you. Playing with my hair. That you feel like it should be obvious, or no one's this bad.
I know.
Right?
I know.
And it
Well, it's
you know, and
it's such a fine line. What did you see, Maud?
Miss Necromancer. You know, it's like interesting that how people
That's such a specific observation
very specific
from
how,
Miss
how
from
particular
Miss
people
Necromancer.
strike you. Oh, that I
Yeah.
associate this person, or the the vibe I'm getting from this
Yeah.
person. Reminds
This guy
me of.
definitely eats his own boogers. Like a really
Yeah.
weird out
Yeah.
of nowhere. Like
I feel like I did one last week,
Yeah.
or in book club.
Oh yeah, it was like you thought of But I also someone was saying Alan is an enabler. I think that you can feel the like weakness in him, like the way
Yeah.
he's described,
Yes.
both physically and
Yeah.
just sort of pandering to both of these women. And I think
He
that
turns an eye for sure.
that he who knows what his family's like, but I would wager that his mom was like that. That's what I would guess, and that
Absolutely.
it's what's comfortable. Like we've said, if it's
Absolutely.
comfortable for you,
Yeah.
just because it's dysfunctional doesn't mean
If
that
it's
you don't end up
familiar.
repeating that somehow.
Absolutely. It's
You don't
so
have
crazy.
to. You can totally not do that.
Yeah.
I highly recommend therapy for everyone in the world,
it is
but
common for
especially that
people
kind of thing. But
to
yeah,
do that.
it happens.
And it's so crazy because it's such a fine line between, for me as a reader personally, for all of this ringing so true and being like, yeah, this is exactly how many people are. These are things that people have to deal with. The borderline personality disorder and the narcissism.
Which is none of that is expressly said,
No.
but I noticed that a lot of people were pointing that, who have maybe grown up with that,
and
have
it's
pointed
not
that out.
expressly said, and so much of the behavior of all the people in the book so far also feels like what we consider normal and is to be expected, and especially with how parents are with their children and vice versa, so that it's such a fine line of like, I'll read something, I'm like, that rings so true, and then something else happens, and like you said, oh, that should be so obvious that there's a huge problem here. Why
But when
haven't
you're in
these
it,
people,
it's
when you're
not.
in it, it's not. Which is the same stuff. It was in Gone Girl. It was throughout Gone Girl. We talked about it then too.
And you get
That
to
emotional
know when you're
manipulation.
intimate with someone in whatever way,
Yeah.
romantic or your family,
Yeah.
you see a side of them that often no one else sees. And a lot of narcissists, a lot of abusers, a lot of those, can be very gregarious and
Gratuitous.
and like she's one of the most popular women in town, this mom, who is I mean, clearly the worst.
Yes.
Like, she's just an awful mother, and the way that she pits them against each other and
all the relationships have to go through her.
Yeah,
is how
everything
she was
is
described.
important
Go through
to
her.
Yeah,
What?
I'm gonna actually.
That power. She's like the center.
Because I highlighted stuff,
She didn't
but it
want
was
her
on my Kindle. I'm
husband
gonna find it.
to have a relationship with her daughter.
Yeah.
That
It had to go through her. It had to
go through her. That she tried out dad.
That's like the most controlling thing.
It's
that you
great,
can
and
possibly
people do that without realizing they're doing it.
Oh yeah, and to her, I'm sure she does feel like the victim. She does feel like, they would do. But I gotta say, you guys, the casting in the show is like
because it's Patricia Clarkson is amazing.
She is amazing.
Do you have some quotes, some notes, or something you wrote down?
I let me find it.
While you're finding that one, there was a note that struck out to me when Adora was in the garden and she'd cut herself accidentally, and she said, "Look what you did."
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, she didn't touch your hand.
Yep.
She didn't move it over there. She didn't do anything to cause that. But you've laid the entire blame solely on another person, and that was my alarm went off real fast and real hard. Then that's when I was like, oh, this is not good. The Amma. Like the masks that she wears, I can't keep up with the dialogue because it's so every single time. It's just so jarring.
She's this,
there's no consistency. I don't understand it.
And it's also very Southern.
Well, and when she's by herself, she's all sexed up, and she's 13. But I had the description of her, and when we first meet her, and you don't know that it's her sister.
Yep.
That reminds me of my
middle school.
The movie 13, where there's that girl was my 13 girl. That was her. That was so. I won't say her last name, Sophia.
Yeah.
And it was like she developed really early. People thought she was much older. She grew up in a really intense family, and when I read that, I was like, oh my God, that's her. And she could turn it off and be sweet. I mean, she stopped doing it for a while, but yeah, it was not scary, just I was me now, it would be like, no, let me protect you.
Yeah.
My thing,
especially in LA.
The thing that's the most important thing to me I've discovered is that I want someone's actions and words to match. So when someone says that they're going to do something and they don't, then that for me, I'm like, nah, mate, not cool. And so for this one, there is nothing consistent with actions or words. Like they're 9 different people kind of thing.
Totally.
And I'm just like, I wouldn't have no time of day for this girl.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she'd be like saying things to like try and isolate me, and she'd be so vindictive. And I mean, I went to school with girls like that.
Yeah, we all did.
My goodness.
I know.
Yeah. I had like an idea. Well, no, this girl ended up making out with her friend's boyfriend in front of her and said, this was for your own good. You understand that? And she's like, yeah, I get it.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, what?
Well, even the way that when she's talking to the detective about violence in the town, and the things she recounts
were her stories.
Oh, yeah, and it's also like she's like, "What? Well, does that count? We had to apologize." And the fact that he's like, I forget that it wasn't so long ago, and it's like, yeah, that's still. I'm sure that's still happening in certain places.
Yes.
And the idea that, I don't know, this sort of like internalized sense of her hating herself and blaming herself, and you can hear it because if it's something you're hearing constantly, especially when you're younger, the things that like, look what you did.
My God.
That soaks into you, that seeps into you, and she doesn't remember things well. She is disconnected from her body, and that is often something that people who do self-harm say is like, this makes it real. And if you experience trauma, sometimes you actually don't remember things that happened to you. They can come back to you, all of that. And so I think a lot of times people are dealing with that because they don't feel connected to themselves. They don't know if what they experienced is real or not because they were traumatized by it. I highlighted a bunch of crazy, these are all like so fucked.
And in such good
quotes.
writing too.
It's
such
beautiful,
great quotes.
horrible writing.
Super. I want to say this too. It feels so familiar to me because it feels like a hard-boiled detective film noir story, but it still feels super modern. But just the way that Gillian writes everything. Gillian writes everything and takes you through it. it feels like you know, out of all the gin joints in all the world, like it has that feeling
Yeah,
to
it
it.
does. Yeah.
with the
Did you
main
guys see that
character, yeah.
question that just came up? Do you like going home?
The winner was I don't mind it, but there was options for no, I hate it, no, I never went back, no, I never left, and yes, I love it. But the winner was like I don't mind, which I feel like okay, good. Generally,
That's good.
It's good. That's good.
It's a bit harder for me to just pop back home.
Sure,
Yeah.
So I have a novelty behind it.
got it.
And as soon as it does get tough, it's like, oh, I leave tomorrow.
My
and
parents-
I'm not gonna for another year.
My parents divorced and vacated my childhood home, so I don't have that to return to
Yeah, I don't
anymore.
have-
Even my hometown, I'm like, well, I don't even have my parents. They're not even there anymore, so it's not the same as when I show up and like
It's not
stay at my
home.
mom's or stay at my
Yeah.
dad's. Like I grew up there, but when I go visit my mom and dad, it's fine, because maybe because it's maybe a little disconnected from that childhood upbringing.
Yeah,
Maybe.
wow.
My family's all here, so
Yeah.
it's weird.
Yeah,
Because it's not the same. It's not
Do you
anywhere that I
feel-
grew up.
15 again when you
No, I
Good.
mean, no.
over like a Thanksgiving, over like a you know.
I'm pretty specific about my boundaries at
Yeah.
this point.
Yeah, I make sure
Because
that like
I live, like, they live here and I live here.
Yes.
And I've been through 15 years of therapy. So I have my, you know, what I do. But yeah, I definitely for a very long time, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's anyone's fault necessarily, but things get brought up that I think like is sort of inevitable when you get, what is it about holidays too? Like Christmas was always
yeah.
so dramatic, and I always used to dread it a little bit. And now I'm sort of like, it's fine because I can do. It's my like I get
I
to
can
do
just
whatever
I can leave.
want.
I'm an adult.
I'm a grown up.
I
don't
have my
to do
own
anything.
vehicle. I
Yeah.
can get in there and drive away. Yeah.
I can do whatever I want.
I just have to make sure that myself or my parents don't revert into like the hey, can you take out the trash, do these dishes? Like, did you? How's
Oh,
this?
really?
This sort of high school
should
mentality of
do
like,
that.
well, I'm not in high school anymore.
You should
no,
want to do that.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
I know
and
that, the chores.
I always offer to, but at that high school parent-child mentality of
Yeah.
like, you're in my home and now it's high school again. It's like, no.
The one thing I wish I listened to was you've spent longer trying not to do the thing than it would have taken you to just do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Well, it also depends on how. I'm
Yeah.
reading this like it's basically a self-help book actually, but it's all about like forming habits and the different types of people there are and how you respond to like internal versus external expectation, and it has like changed the way that I do stuff. Oh well. It's not important, but
That
if
seems
anyone wants
like
to
the
talk about
most
it, we'll talk about it
important.
later. But one of the things where she says, Adora says on page 104, I think, on the Kindle, I will never understand when she's talking about her work and that she was covering other murders and stuff. She says, I will never understand where your penchant for ugliness comes from. Seems like you have enough of that in your life without deliberately seeking it out. She laughed, a shrill lilt, like a balloon lifted in a gust. And it's like, she's talking about what the harm that she's put on herself.
Yeah.
That's so fucked.
Yeah.
And it's so insidious. And
But-
then if you said it, you'd be like, oh, that's not what I meant.
But let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. The thing I love about that writing is that, truthfully, honestly, if that character were a real person and you called that character out, that mom out on what she
would
just said,
not believe
I-
that she did
Yes,
anything
I
wrong.
think there is a version of what that sentence is coming out of her mouth that is genuinely like, oh, I'm trying to look out for my daughter and for your well-being. Like, and I think that it is that she can
I'm trying to
believe.
protect you.
Yes, she believes she is coming from a place of motherly love and of worrying and of
But
That's what she thinks it is.
Yeah.
That's not what it is.
No, it's not.
But I do think that
destructive, yeah.
often, yes, I do think that there is, and that is something that's a tough pill to swallow, is that you can be hurt by something that someone close to you did and understand why they did it and that they didn't mean to. That doesn't mean that the pain that they caused
Yeah,
is any less
isn't
real.
Totally.
Yeah.
Just because you understand it.
Yeah.
And you can understand it as an adult, but like
And it's still
when
it
you're a
could still
kid
happen.
and we
Yeah.
don't know what happened to Mary, we don't. She got sick. Her mom was in bed for a year, and this whole thing became about her, and so it's. And she doesn't really remember everything because it's so.
I had
It's trauma.
a little bit of what is that thing where mothers continue to make their daughter sick? It's a
Munchausen.
Yeah.
Munchausen.
Munchausen by proxy.
where they are so addicted to the need of having a sickly child where they can protect them and look after them and coddle them.
like
there
in
was
The Sixth Sense.
there was a
Yeah.
There's a
Wow.
case.
Misha Barton, or there's a real one. There's a documentary about it that
Yeah,
happened a
a
few
girl
years ago.
and her boyfriend.
She murdered her mom because her mom was doing that to her.
saying she had cancer. She was wheelchair bound for years. Nothing was
Oh,
wrong
so
with
she was
her.
addicted to herself being ill.
No, the
No.
the
The mother
do
was
it to
making
their
the daughter
children.
sick.
that her daughter was sick and putting her on medications,
daughter
going
wasn't.
to the hospital and doctor all the time.
What
there
the
was nothing
fuck?
medically wrong with her.
That is
But she was
fascinating and
in
horrifying.
A wheelchair.
Yeah, and lost her head. Like, yeah,
Lost her hair and stuff.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a documentary. What's it called?
I don't remember
I'm
what
like
it's called.
morbidly
She was right.
like drawn to
It's
that.
it's a fascinating like psychological.
Yeah. You know what else is
thing.
But
fascinating?
that's what I
Yeah.
was feeling that with that Adora possibly had with Marianne. It's like she was sick the whole
And
time.
we don't know
she kept
yet.
getting sick. The way that she coddles after Emma, you know, wanting her to have this. She stressed herself into a fever. Now I get to look after her. I
And
was
like all her preoccupation with the like giving, like Camille was feeling bad that she hadn't accepted the random,
yeah.
you know, like
But there was
hippy-dippy
always
medicine.
an ointment or
something
an
that she
ailment
was
for
doing.
something. Yeah.
Well, and just this idea that she's like, that was the only time I missed it. I missed the time that she was affectionate, was going to be affectionate with me because I didn't want to do it. And
Mommy Dead and Dearest is the documentary. Thank you.
yes, thank you.
I'm gonna look
and
out for that.
Java Book Geek Girl says intention doesn't make the impact any less, even if it was an unintended impact. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and it's
That's
really
emotional
hard.
manipulation.
Yes.
But it's also, you can understand it, and it still fucks
Yeah.
you up for years.
My tolerance
Like,
on
that's
emotional
just-
manipulation, I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on it. When someone's
Yeah.
trying to pull the wool over my eyes or be like that, I'm just
Yeah.
like, boom, nah,
That's good, man.
nah.
You know what
But
blows
to
my mind?
Imagine if you grew up only knowing that.
My mother did. My grandmother is incredibly emotionally manipulative.
Really?
My grandmother is a full-on Catholic Mexican woman, born and raised in Mexico. Had a
She guilt trip you?
what my mom calls like
Yeah.
guilt trips to the nth degree with her children
Yeah.
and her family and stuff. And my mom, from that upbringing, was able to recognize it and like
Good.
kind of got out of there. And that's mind blowing to me because the culture is so different to me in a very traditional Mexico than it is in a United States that I think, from my observation, might be a little bit more aware of this kind of psychology and this kind of, do you know what I mean? I think therapy in the culture of the
But I
United
only
States is a
think-
little bit more accepted than it is even in Mexico. Mexico's still a bit more
yeah,
traditional.
toxic masculinity is
That's
huge in
definitely
Australia.
Huge in
definitely
Mexico.
true, but I
Huge in
will
Mexico.
say that I feel like it's only been within the past few years that people have spoken about this, because I do
You're
remember
probably right.
when I was younger, the like books
Yeah.
that my parents read when they found out what was going, like,
Yeah.
you know, and
There
they,
wasn't much information.
I just think that the 80s changed everything only because there was a counselor on Star Trek, but that really doesn't mean anything. They were ahead of the game.
but it was still stigma. Yeah,
Yes, it was.
And it depends on where you were, but
Yes.
totally in especially like different cultures where
Yes, it's
they're
different.
much more patriarchal, but there's
Huge.
that. Yeah.
Huge.
But I also think like kudos to your mom for doing that,
Dude,
because
she's my hero, man. She got out. She's
but even
badass.
recognizing it when you were a kid, and we
Yeah.
talked about this with Harry Potter and other characters, when
Yeah.
you're a kid and the person you think that your parents or your guardians know everything,
All comes back to
that
Harry
they're
Potter.
gonna love you. Yes, that's
Yes,
why
it
that stuff speaks to me so much. is
Yeah.
Because it's like, if no one sits you down and says, hey, this is not normal.
Yeah.
This is not your fault. If you don't get a chance
keep
for
living
that,
under the
you
stairs.
can internalize that, and it happens to a lot of people, and it can go from the extreme like this, but it happens from parents who maybe work too much and they don't mean to, and they don't, you know. And there's some of the stuff. I just want to read a few more very short quotes that I highlighted because I thought they were really just very real, and I'm interested to know if these were any of the ones where you felt that.
Well, I keep going back and forth because, again, I get to this little sentence and I'm like, this is a film noir. This is delicious.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessarily
the
realistic,
the
but like
writing
it's so
is-
good. And other times I'm like, oh, that's not great. That's pretty real. Like, so I, you
Yeah.
know, I like them both.
So she's telling remembering a guy who asks if anyone's there, page 150, and says, I'm here, I said, and it felt shockingly comforting, those words. When I'm panicked, I say them out loud to myself. I'm here. I don't usually feel that I am. I feel like a warm gust of wind could exhale my way and I'd be disappeared forever, not even a sliver of fingernail left behind. On some days, I find this thought calming. On others, it chills me. And then a couple about the mother-daughter relationship on 152. Is this what mothers did? Wonder if you might need safety pins? I
that got
always,
me.
I always feel sad for the girl that I was because it never occurred to me that my mother might comfort me. She has never told me she loved me, and I never assumed she did. There's a
What the fuck?
So that didn't get me for the reasons that you think. That
Yeah.
got me because my mother was a mother to a friend of mine for the very first time, and my friend goes, "Is that what it's supposed to be like?" And I go, "I don't know any other way." And I realized that I am so spoiled when it comes to
Totally.
being given out a good hand. My parents are still together. I have a fully functioning family. We are all still in open communication with one another. My mum was a psychologist, so the toughest love that I got was in high school when I came home going, "Becky was such a bitch to me." She goes, "Well, what did you do to Becky to make her feel like that?" And I'd be like, "You're not on my side."
Yeah.
And now every time it's like, what are my actions doing to kind of perpetuate this instance? And I
man,
feel
it
like I'm
gives you
so
perspective.
level. I
It
think
does,
that I'm
'cause
sane.
even something that's so bare bones of like, well, my mom told me she loved me. Again, to some people that was not the reality, and that's crazy to think. Like, huh? And yeah, it makes you feel really fortunate, and you know that if you're reading this, you might not have to deal with some of the stuff that this people in this book are dealing with. Now, that's not to say you don't deal with other stuff. Everybody
course.
deals with their own stuff.
Yeah,
but
everyone has
when
their-
it comes to some of the stuff
especially
that
with your parents.
especially with parents, when it comes to some of the stuff in here, though, I am reading it and I'm like, whew, damn. Whew, cool. Didn't have to deal with that, but let's keep reading. Like it's crazy.
People in the chat are saying, I know a lot of people, are talking about emotional neglect, which can be an emotional abuse. There have been studies that often emotional abuse can be more damaging than physical in some cases with kids because there's not there's not a tangible thing which leads to making
Hit,
a
wrong,
thing. Yeah,
wrong,
but
black
then
and
you
white.
do it to yourself because you're like, I don't understand why this is hurting so much. There's not a pain here, and that's a big
Got
part
it.
of that
It's-
too.
Yeah, it's reflecting. Yeah,
But
no,
I also
understand
think
that side
that
of it.
it's interesting that Adora with Amma and Camille, that she is so withholding with one and so smothering with the other one. And that dynamic that I think usually wouldn't exist in one person necessarily. I think it would, I mean, who knows? People are very complicated,
That's
but
true.
I feel
You
like
think it's like a
Gillian
summary
is,
of-
is
Yeah.
combining maybe her parents a little bit
Yeah.
to use that.
Someone was talking about that in the chat about the extremes of relationships between the two daughters, and I think that they were saying that Camille never,
She didn't buy into it.
She didn't buy into it. She
Yeah.
didn't give Adora what she wanted
wasn't- she
out
wa-
of that, And Adora's like trying to get a response and trying to control her and trying to smother her. Camille's just like, nah, I'm good, hey. And I think she resented her for that.
This is my last one, but
Keep them coming.
for a while I convinced myself that Adora's distance was a defense constructed after Marion. But in truth, I think she's always had more problems with children than she'd ever admit. I think, in fact, she hates them. There's a jealousy, a resentfulness that I can feel now, even in my memory. At one point, she probably liked the idea of a daughter. When she was a girl, I bet she daydreamed of being a mother, of coddling, of licking her child like a milk-swelled cat. She has that voraciousness about children. She swoops in on them. Even I, in public, was a beloved child. Once her period of mourning for Marion was over, she'd parade me into town, smiling and teasing me, tickling me as she spoke with people on the sidewalks. When we got home, she'd trail off to her room like an unfinished sentence, and I would sit outside with my face pressed against her door and replay the day in my head, searching for clues to what I'd done to displease her.
Oh, God. What an agonizing existence as well. Just constantly feeling like you're a failure. But the thing is with Camille, she could never win. She was presented with an only lose-lose situation and scenario time after time, day after day. Like, no wonder she got the truck out of there, but some people can't do that. And you saw that in the town.
Well, and she got out of there, but she didn't get out of there.
No, she's still trapped in her own
she's
body.
still
Yep.
suffering from that. And there's
Does she go to therapy in Chicago? Is that
she
a part of
went
her
to
life?
she basically says that once she had basically run out of space and turned 30, she
Yeah.
went to a hospital
Yeah.
and was there, and her mom came to visit her,
That's
and
right.
in the room would just talk about the town and stuff, and in
Performative.
front of the doctors just fawn over her, and and so that was the last time she did it, but she's only been out 6 months at this point.
It reminds me, I just saw a meme today on social media where there was a drawing of a woman stepping from one platform onto the next, and the platform behind her was 2018, and the platform in front of her was 2019, and the platform behind her had things like negativity, bad friends, all this stuff that like you're leaving behind, and somebody posted it and saying like, this woman keeps like ignoring the same things every year. She needs to like step into some therapy. Is kind of what this meme was saying. Like you can't just take that like be like forget about it. Like
me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No. Nope.
It goes a little bit deeper than that.
Mrs. Kylo Ren also said, and I super agree, and we actually have a really great piece on Nerdist about Gillian Flynn.
Timely.
And sort of her writing. She has written a bunch of other films this year, different books that she's working on, and the show obviously came out. And this idea that women in these relationships, I've never read or seen anything depicted like this before. The relationships between women, and Mrs. Kylo Ren says there have been a few really interesting representations of motherhood this year between Sharp Objects, Hereditary, and Hill House, all of which involve dollhouses too. And dollhouses have always freaked me out.
Yeah, I never had dolls. I had Transformers.
It's also I had dolls for sure, but the idea of femininity and sexuality, but innocence and young girls and trauma, like all of this stuff is I think
that was the
incredible.
horror trend of this year, right?
Yeah,
that it was like. Yeah.
I think it's so incredible because we never see anything like that, and it is such a look at how many people are responding to this this kind of relationship.
Yeah, totally.
I want to talk about a character that we actually haven't mentioned yet. He is the character that I am the most drawn to, that I feel like I relate to the most, who calms me in this book. Richard,
the detective.
Yep.
Yeah, Dick.
Also
Dick
very
Willie.
very well cast in the show.
Oh,
Really?
who plays him in the show?
Chris Messina.
Ooh, who's that?
He's from
I'm picturing
he's
like
from,
a Guy Pearce, a young Guy Pearce.
When you
He's
say
from
well
Mindy.
casted, like he's a babe?
Well, yeah, but he's also just he is
Resounding
super
yes.
super
you.
babe. But also I'll look him up. But he just has that vibe to him where it's like he's kind of calm. He's like, what the fuck is this place? Like, what's going on? Kind of like flirty, sassy, but also you're like, shut up, but you like it. It's perfect. It's perfect.
Oh,
Shut up.
That is
It's
sweaty.
like one
That was a great description.
Don't you kind of feel like when he's like, let me take you out for your drink, you're like,
Yeah.
stop it, but okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
No, I'm here going, all right.
Maybe we can go see a movie.
That's a yes from me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, maybe.
Yeah, he's like, I just
She's
want to kind of
obviously
clear my head
going.
from this place.
Yeah.
I get it.
Here, I'll show you Chris Messina. He was in Ruby Sparks. You'll recognize him, I think. He's. Oh yeah.
No, these are movies I have not seen. Nope.
Oh.
Haven't seen that.
No, I have a friend who looks like him. That's weird.
Has he been in anything with a superhero
Oh,
yet?
that's nice.
Yeah, he's a very handsome man.
Okay,
Look him
good
up.
for him. Good for him.
He was on the Mindy Project.
Cool.
But this is for the first time, this is like a murder mystery where it's not about the murder mystery really
Yeah.
much at all. Like this is a very, very centric part of it all. Yeah.
I'm
where
still
Two dead
engaged.
girls. I love that there's something that, is constantly repeated here. You're getting inundated with tiny little bits of information, but then the overarch is that there's no way a woman can do this. Whilst constantly seeing
Yes.
the most vile sides of what women can possess. Something as simple as being a terrible mother, being controlling, being
Yeah.
manipulative, but also being a freak gossip. Like, they hang off every word and they cannot wait to drag other people.
I
And that
love
knowledge is
the scene
power.
with Adora's friends, where one of them is like, I think you need to throw up. I was just like, what? Where they're talking about,
Yeah.
she's trying to say something about her mom, like, you should get the fuck out. And her best friend is like, I think you should, like, throw stuff at her. Like, that was super weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to leave this place.
I also noticed earlier in the reveal of the one eyewitness to the second girl getting taken, the little boy in the woods, who saw a woman do it, talking about how everybody ruled
There's
out
no
like
way, so dismissed.
there's no way. There's
Well,
no way.
there aren't a lot. It's true.
It's true. That was
there aren't
that
lot
was
of
a great.
female
I thought
killers.
of the movie Monster, like that shone in my head for a second, like that shined. The Charlize Theron like Oscar-winning. Was it
real-
Patty
yeah.
Jenkins who directed that?
Yes,
really,
and then
really
didn't
good.
make.
What, for like
Yeah.
16
many
years
of
after?
It wasn't allowed to make a thing in Hollywood until Wonder Woman. I think is what the gap was, right?
Yeah.
And now she's gonna be good to go, getting paid. But when that
Probably the
happened,
most patient
Finally.
people on the planet.
after that reveal, which the little boy said that she had like a white gown on
Mm.
or something. There were multiple characters that were introduced that was kind of alluded to wearing multiple women wearing kind of that sort of thing. So I'm already like, oh, who could it be?
See, I haven't. I'm not even like, you
Yeah.
know, with the Midnight on the Orient Express. I was
Murder on the Orient Express.
murder. Sorry,
But that would have been a cool title
Midnight.
too.
What happened at
Midnight on
midnight?
the Orient Express.
It
It did.
definitely you wouldn't have
Would
known
fit.
that murder was coming.
Oh, but it's
Would have been a
that's
little
true.
more mysterious.
That's true. Like,
But
oh,
when
it
that was the
wasn't
central
game
part of it,
changer, yeah.
I'm looking at what
Yeah.
color stitching did they have in
Well,
their
we
jacket?
had
You know,
our
like
beautiful
everything.
murder board that our
Yeah.
amazing team
Are we
made.
gonna
Yeah,
do
they
another
probably
murder
have
board?
told me
Well, we
like
can't-
this is the killer, and I'm like, but what else is happening?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is much more
Yeah.
about her experience,
her life and her family.
her returning to this place, and these dead, you know, she's got a dead sister, and these dead girls are showing up, and there's all these issues with their, like, the details are weird and deeply
It was tough for her to be at the
off-putting.
funeral because the coffin reminded her that tiny coffin of her sister. You know, I'm like,
And
what a
she
great
and her-
detail.
And she and her mom disagree on every detail, which is an interesting thing because, of course,
Honey, your
our
eyes were
memories,
closed.
but
Your eyes
also
were
our
open.
memories
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
I like that
are
very much.
Unreliable.
unreliable for sure. But that adds to these relationships where if
Yeah.
you really think that you are just, I just love you so much, I just want to be
Honey, I
close
wasn't
to you, I just
emotionally
need you, you know, all
manipulative.
that stuff.
Yes, you were, Mom.
And it's
No,
like,
I
no,
wasn't.
you're smothering me or whatever.
Yeah.
That doesn't change her perspective of it.
Yeah.
How do you ever get to that middle point?
You
I
guys
don't
also know
you
that
do.
as children, like you can have a different truth
Mm-hmm.
drilled into you to the point where you reflect back on your childhood and are convinced that that is what actually happened and it's been fabricated.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's part of, I think, with trauma, people avoid it for so long. I don't know if anyone, did you watch The Sinner? I don't think you did.
No.
Anybody here watch The Sinner?
The Sinner season
Not
one
yet.
was
We got a woo.
amazing.
Was that
and
Lee? Lee, did you watch that?
So good. Oh yeah, because
Lee watched
I
it.
watched it in like one night, and then Lee.
Oh, yeah, Lee
and
was
then
all
Lee
over that.
watched it. It was great. But there's moments of like, I had a conversation with someone who was like, well, why would you ever not remember that? And I was like, you sweet summer child. Like, that's how trauma works. Like, you know, so anyway, it's a fun conversation. And yeah, it is odd how Adora keeps turning up. Well, she was a tutor of at least one of the girls.
Yeah, my mum's a tutor of young kids.
My mom was
Yeah.
a teacher.
That was a weird one for me because I remember like 5 years ago I was like showing a boyfriend Google Earth and Google Maps and all that kind of stuff, and it was like that direction. I was like, oh, I'm going to show you my house, and Mum is leading a young Asian girl into the house, and I'm like, I can't explain this. I don't know what's happening here, and I feel very strange.
She's a tutor?
Yeah, and
That's
then
what-
Mum's like, oh, I've been tutoring. I tutor
That's
like
great.
non-English, being their first language kids at the high
hilarious.
school,
Oh,
so that
that's
they
so
can.
nice.
Yeah.
You had to call Mom? Were you leading a
Yeah, I'm like, Mum,
young Asian girl
I
into
have
the
a
home?
I need a question answered like now. And she's
That's
like,
hilarious.
oh, that's like, you know, Sukina. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm going
but
to
she's a tutor.
Google image search my parents, see what they're doing.
That's
maybe
Some
not.
people have done
funny,
it and
I
they
don't
found out
wanna
that
know.
their parents have been cheating.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
that
That's
a
like when
documentary?
people looked up, what was that
read a lot of shit
website
online.
for couples who want Ashley Madison?
Oh, yeah. And then people were like, my spouse is on here. What are you doing
what
on
I
there?
can't relate
I
to.
know.
We're
We're all terrible.
We're asking you guys on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you enjoy the Southern Gothic tone of this book? I have never experienced a Southern Gothic tone.
Welcome to America.
Oh, I love Southern Gothic.
What is Southern Gothic? I'm reading
Southern
it. and I don't
Gothic
know
is
what it
True
it's
Blood.
fucked up.
There's the show True Blood with
Right.
Sookie.
I've read all of those.
Sookie.
Faulkner, yes.
Yeah, okay, that's the smart answer,
Yes.
but it's True Blood.
No,
What is
let's
the other
read
one?
some Faulkner.
Let's read some True Blood. Let's
I've
read
read
that.
all of them.
I
Great.
haven't read them.
Again, I
watched the
cannot
show.
relate to it
Sure.
in any
We
any
should read some
capacity.
Australian Gothic.
Yeah.
Does that exist? Go find that.
Okay.
Go find this great, like,
Oh yeah, I've got one. I've got a great one.
What is it?
Looking for Ella Brandy.
looking for El Brandy.
Looking for Ella Brandy.
Looking for Ella Brandy.
Ella Brandy. Yeah.
How's it spelled?
ALIBRANDI.
Is that a name?
Yeah,
Is
it's
that a-
someone last name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She
I was
hopped
like,
into
is it
my...
a-
We started it in
Herb?
high school, and
Did
it
you
was
say
a really
herb or herb?
herb. There's an H in
I
the
know.
word.
Eddie Izzard, I know.
Herb.
You say herb and we say herb.
No.
because
You
there's
say-
a fucking
do you
H
say-
in it. No, I'm quoting Eddie Izzard.
Do you say
Oh,
honorary?
yeah.
Do you say honorary? There's an H in there last time I checked.
I need more wine.
Does your Australian novel open with, she hopped into my office like a big roo, looking for looking for
Dude,
really
you won
short
that
foot.
argument. What are you doing?
Huh?
Yeah, why did
won.
you just
I don't know.
like ruined
I
your
did.
own...
I did. Honorary.
You won, and then you smacked me
Here we
with
go.
words.
wait. Southern Gothic, themes of decay, falls from power, sexism, racism, classism. Yes, so
I like that.
the South and fucked up.
It's funny. I think the reason
Yours
why
is the more eloquent
Looking for
version, though.
Brandy was such a great book in its time because it actually covered racism.
Really? I was going to
and
ask what
classism.
makes up Australian. If that kind of defines Southern American Gothic, what would you define as Australian Gothic or this Australian mystery thing? What are some of the themes in there? You said it covers racism,
No, it usually doesn't.
but this
There's no
particular
other
thing
race.
does.
Sorry?
Ooh, Flannery O'Connor. And Tennessee Williams.
Got it.
Ooh, can we start a like...
With an I, Adam Alabrandi.
Classic.
With an I.
I also like the Miss Necromancer comment, not to try and defend female killers at all, but their motives are hardly ever sexual, and in our male gay society, a non-sexual motive is impossible to understand and thus boring. And it feels like that with the cops, the
Totally.
the hometown one, Vickery.
It
where
had
he's
to have been a
just-
gross man
Yeah.
who kidnapped these young women.
But then they're
but
like,
they weren't.
but he might have been gay because they didn't
Yeah.
like rape them, and it's
Yeah.
just like,
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there is a show dedicated to sexually based crimes.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
Hard
that's
pass.
because that's the, anyway.
Extreme pass for me.
What are you talking about? Are you talking about To Catch a Predator?
NCIS or whatever, one of those, right?
Law and Order SVU, Special Victims Unit.
Oh,
They are
yeah.
Special Victims.
Oh.
Special Victims.
As in like sexual crimes? That's what that whole thing was about?
Yeah.
Wasn't Christopher Maloney in that show?
Yes,
There
it
are
was.
multiple,
Love
there are
Christopher
multiple
Maloney.
spin-offs. It's
Same.
still... Oh, yeah.
Ice-T was in that one?
Yes.
Ice-
He speaks in the
Ice-
same monotonal voice for
Yeah.
18 seasons now.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, Ice-T.
Because he's never had a
It is-
bagel?
That's true, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Changing my name to that.
I really quick, this is great. Mrs. Catherine said something really great too, that it's interesting how regionally in the U.S. these stories have such different feels. Like a Hawthorne novel is Northeastern Gothic. Stephen was talking about anything with abandoned factories, which is like definitely like Northeastern.
Stephen
And I know
King,
where you're
Northeastern?
from. Like, well, yeah. I mean, when I used to have go with an ex-boyfriend to upstate New York, it was like empty factories and
Wow.
just like brick and very different.
Interesting.
And all of mine are like city. Like when I think about my experiences, like Hollywood
Yeah.
in the 80s and 90s, and Venice in the 90s, which is obviously a very different
Yeah.
vibe. So.
Totally.
That was all about the Carrie Fisher book that we did. Postcards
Yeah, from the edge.
from the edge.
Yeah.
That was that. Now, mate, this is all new to me. Like
Cool.
99% of
I like that you
all
like it,
media
though.
out there is I
Yeah.
cannot relate to.
Yeah, a movie comes out and they're like, Southern California, you know what that's like, and you're like,
I mean, you do now.
Yeah, now
A little
I
bit.
do. The best one
know
for
the
me was when I
streets.
moved over here and I was like, oh my gosh, I've been driving around here in Los Santos in
Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah. I was like, whoa!
Yep.
People get to do this all the time in their lives. They pick up a book and they're like, no, I was there yesterday.
That's how I
It's like,
felt when I first visited New York. I was like, I've been reading this in Marvel Comics since I was a child. Like, I know where everything is. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It's great.
Anyway, guys, we've got to finish this book.
Okay.
Do that, and we'll chat about it next week if you can. I'm gonna watch it.
I'm going to try.
I want to watch it again.
How many
gonna try.
eight
It's
episodes?
really good.
8 episodes.
Yeah, 8
It
episodes,
is
I
quick,
imagine,
and
an
it's
hour
so
each.
Amy Adams is a revelation, and so is
Yes.
Patricia Clarkson.
Yes.
And I just want to say, for a lot of these themes, I actually really like talking about them. So if you're on Twitter and you need to talk about stuff like
Yeah.
this, please let me know. Happy to hop in DMs and just chat about life. So thanks for chatting with us.
Thresh says, Wake and Fright is Australian Gothic. Have you heard of that?
Nope.
Cool. I'd read it.
I'm really good at listening, but I in no way can offer any advice. So there's that too. Hey, but you are not
Hey,
alone with any of
sometimes
this.
listening is really important, too.
You've been a very, very lovely friend to me. And she will know.
Yeah.
We'll be fine. We'll have a whole show, and
Yeah.
then we'll go out. I won't do anything. And she'll be like, are you okay? And I'm like,
Yeah.
no. And then you're
Ding.
very
I'm intuitive.
You are very intuitive. Pisces. Perceptive.
I see.
And very empathetic. And so are you. I love you guys.
Libra. Oh, we love you, too.
You're a Libra?
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense, right?
You're
Sure
Libra
does.
and I'm Libra. Hey, anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining
What?
us. We'll see you next week. It just was a pun.
What?
It was a pun. That's all that was. It's a bad joke.
We love you.
Finish the book.
Bye.